The Navy suffered severe losses from the Pearl Harbor attack. Fortunately, the carriers were out to sea, and most of the remaining damaged ships were rebuilt. The Japanese were soon in control of much of Southeast Asia and the Pacific. The American Pacific Fleet under Admiral Nimitz fought back. That included submarines which the Japanese did not anticipate. They discovered too late that the Americans knew how to fight. The Japanese military was initially a well-fed force, then transitioned to one claimed to be self-sufficient. The feeding of the military reduced food available to the public, made worse by American submarines sinking hundreds of merchant ships, 285 by the end of 1942. Japanese troops were sent across the Pacific, often finding themselves cut off from merchant supply ships. Their instructions: if food is not enough, get it from the enemy. Japanese leaders on the islands had the ridiculous habit of ordering infantry charges against machine gun positions. That meant considerable mass slaughter, along with starvation, with little, if any, regard for the soldiers. At least 1 million military deaths were due to starvation. What was worse was cruelty shown to their perceived enemies, usually the ones they invaded. That included the rape of Nanjing and the Bataan Death March. Leaders would later be charged with war crimes. The Japanese objective was a militaristic empire. A fundamental result was starvation of the people due to declining food production and distribution. Rather than considering the importance of farming productivity, focus was maintained on the military. Malnutrition increased substantially in the later war years. The U.S. Pacific Fleet blockade made the situation worse. Admiral Nimitz developed the strategy of underway replenishment, meaning the fleet could operate away from port almost indefinitely. Nimitz developed an island hopping plan to bypass most of the Japanese strongholds in the Pacific until they reached Okinawa. The focus was on taking as few islands as possible to reach Japan. Starvation and suicide became increasingly common among abandoned Japanese soldiers. The Battle of Midway happened in early June 1942, 6 months after Pearl Harbor. The Japanese expected to capture Midway and destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet, especially the aircraft carriers. Instead, it was a decisive defeat. The U.S. had conveniently broken much of the Japanese code and knew the location and timing of the attack, then prepared an ambush. All 4 Japanese carriers plus a heavy cruiser were sunk. This was considered a turning point in the Pacific War. The Battle of Leyte Gulf in the Philippines, late in 1944, was the largest naval battle in history and effectively destroyed the Japanese fleet, followed by the Battle of Okinawa beginning in April 1945, bringing the war close enough to Japan to bomb the mainland continuously. With the Soviets planning to invade Japan from the north and American sea and air power, Japan was expected to surrender. Japan had the destruction caused by firebombing Tokyo and losing on all fronts. They still expected a negotiated settlement rather than the unconditional surrender demanded. It might have been better for the U.S. to give up on building the atomic bomb, claiming it didn't work. However, President Truman and advisors could not in good conscience, call for a land invasion with the expectation of hundreds of thousands of American casualties. The U.S. spent billions on the Manhattan Project, using the best scientific minds to create the atomic bomb. It worked, and the team built two bombs. Truman made the decision, and Hiroshima was bombed using Little Boy on August 6, 1945, and Fat Man on Nagasaki on August the 9th. The two bombs killed some 140,000 almost instantly, then many more died from radiation sickness. It was Emperor Hirohito who announced his unconditional surrender on August 15th, ending the war. The occupation of Japan began on August 28th, and the formal surrender was held on September the 2nd aboard the battleship USS Missouri, which included Admiral Nimitz and General MacArthur. Investigations of Japanese war crimes started almost immediately. With VE Day on May the 8th and VJ Day on September the 2nd or August 15th, war was over, with much of the old world decimated and America the industrial powerhouse with the strongest military. Stalin's Soviet Union claimed equal power, soon taking over most of Eastern Europe, and the Cold War was on. The aftermath was complicated, and this story next time on Food History and Mystery.